Hey guys, good evening and welcome to my exciting channel. We're discussing Mandela effects of the like. Thanks for joining in tonight. Welcome all Mandela effecting. So tonight we welcome Carol Moore, who is our Christian psychic, and we also have our special guest, Dr. Tarrin Lupo. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Well, ladies first. Go ahead, Carol. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
And we're glad to have you. I want to start out before we get into like questions and everything. I want to start off with a little prayer. And I came across this passage in Luke chapter 18. Let me pull up my screen real quick so you guys can look on with me. Okie doke.
I apologize. I've done something and I've lost the image. I'm trying to figure out how to get it back.
It's okay. We can still hear you and everything, Carol.
Okay.
Carol, slide up to the top, and there's a little camera button you accidentally hit. Hit that.
Okay, well,
can't join the call, I guess, because I'm already in it.
Yeah, you're here.
Carol, the easy way is just to go out and come back in if you need to.
Okay, let me do that.
Okay. So time out for a second while we wait.
Let's chew the cud. How are you? I got to meet your mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, are we good, Carol?
Well, I still haven't gotten what I had before.
What, the camera? Can't get the camera to work?
Well, it does, but I can't get it to work and see you guys like I could before.
Did you go all the way out and back in?
Yeah.
What did you? I wonder how you shut your camera off there.
Blink, blink. That was a deer in the headlights moment. Carol, if it's okay, if you just want to talk like that, that's fine.
Okay.
You can get it to work. Great. I guess we'll go ahead and start. We got lots of topics to cover and little time to work with here as time is speeding up, right, guys?
Right.
Live YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Live YouTube. That's how it goes.
It's Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. Anything that can will happen, right?
The people tune in just for this stuff to watch. They enjoy it. They're giggling. Don't worry about it.
Cool. It's completely unedited or anything. Live. So, if you guys will look on with me briefly, I'm starting off in Luke chapter 18, verse 35 through 42. Okay? And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging, and hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. Jesus of Nazareth passeth by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto him, unto God. So, I wanna pray right now as we ask for God's blessing in this chat. And like I said, thanks for joining in, guys. Carol, why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of your introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and everything.
In terms of my metaphysical or just generally?
Well, what is it you do? What do you it's fine. You can talk about that too.
Well, years ago, I got to a really questioning point in my life when I knew I'd weighed down my life with very unproductive people, I knew I was out of harmony and balance. I was really struggling to be able to be my spiritual self. I had people around me who worked against that, and it really wasn't okay with me. Um, I mean, I have been a believer for a very long time. And so I went on a quest, and that led me down paths probably too long to discuss with, in this conversation. But eventually it led me into some group meditations, and I had a couple of instances just prior to this where I had studied astrology quite a bit, and could at least talk about rudimentary elements of personality and so forth. And some people who I did not know at all came to visit me one day because they heard that I saw things in charts, and they wanted to understand what the chart was saying about their individual personalities. And I remember very well that I was kind of talking along, and all of a sudden I heard myself say, I don't know if you've got 2 children or 3 children, because I feel 2 very strongly. And the guy looked at me and he said, I don't worry about the other one. And at that point I was a little startled, and I said, there's nothing in astrology that would tell me how many children you have. And he said, just go for it, whatever comes, comes. And so we continued on. So a short time later, I was in a group meditation, and really I had worked very hard to still myself. We are our own worst enemies, and there's information that comes to us all the time that balance us, but we tend to clutter our lives in as human beings, and we don't listen. And so I had been working to balance out that problem. And so I was in this group meditation, and all of a sudden it was almost like my top of my head, it was like a hatch that opened up, and this brilliant light came inside me. And at that point, I felt this intense energy, and it was just more love than I had ever felt in my entire life. It was more intense than sex or any physical expression of love. It was just intense. And then I realized I was in the presence of God. And from that point forward, I became really psychically open. My third eye unfolded. If you get into some of the Eastern religions, it's an experience that could be described as a Kundalini experience. And I realized that if I put my attention someplace, I could know things that I would not normally know. And it sort of evolved. And of course, if you share that about yourself to anybody they tend to start saying, gee whiz, tell me something, that kind of thing. And I did a lot of reading. I traveled. I've been a psychic on a 900 number. I mean, I've done a lot of things, but I did not like being put in the position of people wanting me to tell them what to do. And I strongly believe that we are here to be together, to share, but we're not here to tell each other what to do. We're here to love and respect and support, and be a seeker and come into balance. And so that's really kind of what I've worked on, and I kind of let go of being a public psychic per se. I would much rather be in this kind of a format where I'm having personal conversations with people who have worked on themselves, who are questioning what reality is, what is our purpose, that kind of thing. How does that tie into God or Creator, however you want to describe God, and just work on myself and my life path. So that's kind of my story.
That is awesome, I must say, Carol. Seems like a long way too. I'm not sure when you discovered your gift. I'm sure a lot of people want to know.
Oh, it's been several decades. We'll just put it that way.
Is it okay to say that you're?
Yeah, I got you back.
Okay. Carol happens to be an RH negative, folks. She is a O negative. So a lot of the RH negatives, there seems to be a big interest in that right now. They have a higher psychic, supposedly ability. They're more in tune with nature, I guess. So yeah, thanks, Carol, for sharing your story, and we're gonna get more into that. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Lupo, can you tell us? I'm sure a lot of people have seen, a lot of people in the chat and everything have seen your channel, and I'm very honored to have you here with us. And tell us about just a brief intro, so my subscribers can,
Gladly. Thanks for being invited to your playground. I have a variety channel over on YouTube for about 8 years now, and I mainly did stories that were liberty oriented, more how to be self-sufficient, how to grow a garden, a lot of farming stuff. And then I accidentally stumbled into the Mandela effect. And I made a story about it that kind of took off, and people just kept coming around saying, do more stories about it, do more stories about it. And for about 8 months, my channel was just hijacked with nothing but Mandela stuff. But I am trying to also have some fun and put out other stories. So it is a variety channel. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If you subscribe, sometimes I do absolutely nothing that has to do with the Mandela effect. I just have fun and do a silly story or something. Or I might do a farming story or, whatever. So I wanted to make a YouTube channel of just whatever I was interested in. And hopefully some of you guys have checked it out before.
Yeah, I think a lot of people here are very much affiliated. I think we heard people say, "Hey, Dr. Lupo," which means they kind of know who you are and everything. And yeah, you're one of the earlier people in the Mandela effect. I kind of caught on a little bit later. When did you discover the Mandela effect?
That's a hard question. I always have a tough time, but actually, right around October last year is when it started sinking in, and then I found out it was called the Mandela effect. I really knew something was wrong, but never thought about it too much. But what happened is it kind of opened a bunch of repressed memories. And as I got into this further, I was like, way back in 1990, something happened because stuff shifted. And, like as I went back, I had a big block of my childhood that I just could not remember. And so I feel that maybe some people in the Mandela stuff has shifted a few times, that it's been going on for a while, and that is my experience. So it's hard for me to say. I will say it was October last year, and I made the story in December, and then my channel just went nuts with activity for a while. I did a live show like this, and we had a pretty fun run with that.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys don't you weren't able to see it, but my mom is a huge fan of yours, Dr. Lupo.
She actually watched the show?
Yeah, she watches it. She sets the timer on it every Tuesday and Thursday.
What? Really? Oh my gosh, she watches my Tuesday show. For you guys that don't know, my Tuesday shows are about not just Mandela stuff. It's whatever I want to talk about. So like last week we had unschooling and peaceful parenting, and just whatever. I hate to use the term high vibration stuff, but anything that is more empowering and positive. I'm really trying to focus my life on doing good and positive things that help people.
Have you noticed any opposition, you guys, to spirituality? Have you noticed people act different in this, I guess, quote unquote reality? You guys could talk anytime you want, just kind of give each other turns.
Yeah, ladies first. Go ahead, Carol. I'm
What if I'm not a lady?
Well, I'm a Southerner at heart. I'm from Savannah, I lived in Savannah,
Okay.
so it's
Well, as
ladies
I
first.
always told my students, I'm a Westerner. So anyway, I think that we're in a time where more people are, if they've been in negative energy, I think they're being kind of forced to be aware of it and deal with it more. And I do think that there's a tremendous amount of energy that is pressuring people to deal with that.
Yes! I was in a YouTube video!
What can I say? I have kids, if you're hearing that.
Yes. We have all kinds of things that happen on people's shows. I've noticed, like, some people have their cat climbing all over them. Was that you, Dr. Lupo?
All the time. All the time. I've actually had the cat start a show before I was ready. Like,
Well.
I had everything ready, so all I had to do was hit the button, and I was like doing something, and the cat walked on the keyboard and started the show, and Burma's just laughing at me because I wasn't ready at all. Like the cat decided when to start. So yeah. That's just part of it. And I like Carol, your girl's so cute. She's like spying in the background, trying to see what's going on. And we're all commenting how cute she is and adorable.
Oh.
She was like, "Are you live? Are you live?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." Then she's got to sneak around here. So
most people have kids, that are on here, so it's cute.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that right now it's almost like energy is kind of shaking other people's energy and saying, hey, wake up, wake up. And so, like I said, particularly when I used to travel and do psychic fairs and things of that nature, it was interesting because increasingly I was around people who wanted to know if something was coming and if they were suddenly going to be a Clara Barton or some equivalent person who goes out and saves the day and so forth. But unfortunately, we live in a pretty mundane world overall, and the spirituality stuff connects to us every moment of every day, and it's whether we choose to put our focus there or not. And a lot of adding positive energy to the world is just kind of stepping back and, like I said, learning to be a listener, putting yourself aside, learning what balance is all about, and working on that balance. And there's not going to be some magic moment where you're going to go rescue 100 people because of something that's happened. I don't feel that. It's something that we are supposed to work with every second, every moment, every minute, every hour of every day. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I know you mentioned earlier about the powers that be. You were talking about the powers that be. There's obviously a lot of evil in the world that we're trying to get rid of that negative energy.
Yes. Well, I mean, you don't have to listen any further than news stories to listen to the focus on the negative. And, my focus has always been on learning about people and learning to celebrate their simple little everyday existence and being and what's important to them. And that's really, for me at least, that's where it's at. And I think it's nice if we get recognition, but it's not something I seek. As you know, I mean, initially when we first talked, I could feel the connection, but I told you I hadn't done a national interview in a long time, and people have come to you with so many expectations, but it has a lot to do with giving up their free will and asking you to make decisions for them. And it's really for each of us to learn to make our own decisions and come to terms with our own sense of balance and so forth. And nobody should be dictating to you what that is. But there are plenty of beings out there in this realm or in other realms that are real hung up on wanting to control as if what do I want to say? They are going to be more powerful because they can do this for you and they can steer you this way. And, those are the kinds of people that I steer clear of very personally. Because again, I'm firmly rooted in that we're in the stream of consciousness that God created. We are working to go back into the perfect balance that we came into this world with, or the beyond that we came from that wasn't balanced. And to do that, we have to learn to make good use of our free will choices. And that's really, from my point of view, where it's at. And people who are asking you to let them make choices for you are the negative people or the negative energy, and you need to be very cautious about that. So you need to be very, very cautious.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I was listening to every word you just said, and I could feel it like reverberating to what I was actually thinking. That's so weird. Like, we have that connection.
Well, I've had lots of conversations. My kids ask me if it's possible to be possessed and things like that. And yeah, if you want to put your free will down and let somebody else or something else control you, yeah, you can do that. But is it wise to do that? No. Is it helping the balance in the world to do that? No.
Well, I was wondering, and hopefully you could help me answer this. At what point does something that you're really interested in become an obsession? And when it's an obsession, does it actually take control of you? Does it take root? And how do you avoid that? Like the Mandela effect is a nice rabbit hole, but yet there are times I feel like I'm completely controlled by it, and there's other times where I'm not. So how do you avoid that pitfall?
Well, I mean, when you realize that your feet have left the ground and that's your total focus, and you're kind of letting go of other elements that make up your whole self and your whole life, that's when you need to start being concerned. So.
All right. Well, Dr. Lupo, do you have anything you wanted to add to
the original question? Yeah, well, your original question was, are people reacting negatively to spirituality, or was it that people getting more spiritual? Help me out, because I don't.
Well, really we're talking on spiritual land. Sorry if I asked a lot of questions. What I was asking was this negative energy that seems like everyone gets mad easily in this, and it's kind of hard to, when you're talking about the Mandela effect. it's almost like you sound like a conspiracy theorist, and it's like they've linked a lot of conspiracy theories to be the mother of all conspiracy theories, I believe. And what I was wondering was how, I guess, how do you guys feel? How do you deal with like talking to other people about Mandela effect, and how do you not let it control your lives? Like how do you avoid like OCD if it becomes an obsession?
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, you're saying how do you not let the Mandela effect take over your life and become an obsession?
Or anything. I was giving the Mandela effect as an example, but you know, like you can obviously turn cigarette smoking into from a habit to an obsession. Obviously, like how do you avoid that pitfall?
Ooh, that's an excellent point. Man, people have been struggling with all kinds of addictions forever. And there's been a lot of brain science and studies on how to do it. And people find different paths. A lot of success is interrupting patterns, you know, like when you know, we had this talk the other night. It was like, if you're a real negative Nancy and that's your view, and, you know, your parents were negative Nancys and you grew up and all your family was negative, that whenever something comes up, it's like, oh, this is the worst. The man's against us. We're never going to get ahead. You know, all the talk that kids learn from their parents and they carried on to their own kids. It's like a knee-jerk reaction of negativity. And what happens is you have to recognize and you have to step aside and frankly be mature enough to say, you know, why are all these ideas in my head? Because they're not mine. Somehow these got in here that anytime a crisis comes up or a stress, I react negatively. And so what happens, a successful tool is to interrupt that pattern. And a lot of times just recognizing it really starts that road and opens it up. So if you say a crisis happens and you say, oh man, you know, now I got to pay $300 on a car repair and all this, and instead of saying, okay, you know what, maybe I just saved myself from my brakes going out in the highway. You know, like maybe there's a good reason for this happening. Yeah, it hurts. $300 hurts, but I need new brakes. So it's one of those things that you have to catch yourself while you're doing it and go, oh man, you know, $300, that mechanic's stiffing me, they're robbing me. And when you hear yourself say it, you go, whoa, 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 that's the old negativity. Let me find a good positive thing to focus on. Okay, I'm not going to die on the highway. You know, and so by actually talking yourself through it, what happens is you will hear something come negative out of your mouth, and it'll like cause a cringe in you. It'll screw with your energy, and you'll be like, oh, there it is again. Let me stop it, and now I'm going to go this way. And it took me a little while to get out of that, because I got in a bad spot in my life where I was just like focusing on the negative, and I had to like put the brakes on and constantly push myself to a positive choice and interrupt the pattern. I know this is a Christian-oriented show, and I will say that a lot of people also have success praying to God and asking them to help the problem. And I have seen patients come in with, you know, lifetime addictions who have broke it by finding God. So there are different paths. I also believe that sometimes that's an interrupt, you know, that you ask for help and it changes your brain chemistry. I think that's, I mean, in my personal opinion, I've seen miracles in my life all the time. So I do believe that you can get through this negative cycle and any sort of addiction and habit by first starting to break the loop, break the habit loop. And many times that is something really simple, like, you know, you will just interrupt, like, why am I getting up and eating all day long? You know, well, every time that happens, I'm going to instead go and check my email, or I'm going to instead drink a glass of water, or I'm going to instead, so you catch yourself doing it. And after a while, that pattern gets interrupted and stops. And you can do that with negativity, and you can do that with spirituality. You can interrupt, you know, you're not walking close to God or whatever your deal is. You can interrupt that and say, why am I not? And I'm not doing what I need to be doing. So I believe it all works the same.
Well, I would agree with that. And what came to my thought process was the term that you start looking at what people might normally call a negative experience, like the brakes in your car needing work. But instead, if you start looking at that as an opportunity, you have an opportunity to support another human being because they have an opportunity to work on your vehicle and earn a living, and maybe they're in the stream of consciousness for them by doing that because that's their thing. It's an opportunity to maybe take yourself off a beaten track and cross some other paths that may bring about some kind of a meaningful experience. And the other thing I'll qualify is that I do have a degree I have a fine arts degree in art. So when you start talking about the Mandela effect, I'm looking at it kind of from a different worldview, because part of what you do in art is look for symbology, and a lot of art, particularly art 1,000 years ago, heavily involved symbolic type things. So when you're talking about the Mandela effect and you're seeing it in the typography or in some kind of a visual whatever, I mean, people have been looking for those signs for a long time. And is that not largely what the Mandela's effect is that you are keying into a visual that suddenly invokes an experience or a thought process or a feeling or whatever it is that it invokes, different from where your focus has been in the past. And you connect meaningful. I mean, at one point, I was actually teaching classes on how do you make a psychic tool that could at least rudimentary answer yes or no by tying into the energies that are available. And it's the creative energy, because let me qualify this and say, I don't know anything more than what God wants me to know. And then you have the job of trying to use your background, your experiences to interpret what comes to you. I remember one time when my nephews were asking me about something, and they kind of wanted to test my psychic ability. And they said, where does my friend Mary Lou live? And I said, between the third and the fifth house from this corner. And they looked at me and they said, well, that's exactly right. It's the fourth house. Why did you not say the fourth house? Well, it didn't come to me that way. You know what I'm saying? So you have to kind of trust. I can remember one time I was doing a reading for somebody, and I started to use a Christian example. And then I heard myself qualifying this with, I don't know if you believe in Christ or not, but, and I used the example, and the voice on the other end of the phone line said, well, actually, I'm Jewish. And I thought, I knew that before they told me that because of how it was given to me, But this whole issue I find very interesting because, as I said, I've read in the past on there are lots of thoughts about parallel universes, and I don't know. I try to not go way out there and simply say, is that not what we're talking about when we're talking about being here on earth versus heaven? Is that not the parallel?
Yeah, we don't want to assume anything. I mean, a lot of people can get into all kinds of theories and everything about the Mandela effect, what it's about. Carol, if you could reduce any of the background noise.
Okay. Turn it down, y'all.
Some people have like really sensitive speakers, and just little bit of the background. Sorry.
Okay. I may go back outside. I apologize. I'm
No, that's
at
all
a
right.
friend's house and
I didn't want to break your concentration. You were doing really well. But yeah. And I have these moments where like I'm talking about something and the spirit comes over me and gives me what to say. I really didn't too much prepare for tonight, and I'm thankful that you guys are with me. And but I did have a couple questions, which Rena Jaceel helped me prepare these. Thank you, Rena. Let's see. Because we're talking mainly about spirituality here. And I think we talked about spiritual battles, sort of what we're going through right now with the negative energies. Dr. Lupo, what is the scariest and most amazing? Actually, that's two questions, two-part question. What is the scariest and most amazing Mandela effect or spiritual encounter?
Wow. Okay, let's see. The most scary. Scary is kind of a hard word to say because I was kind of freaked out the very first time over just the whole idea that because the Mandela effect means one of two things to me. Either this reality can be hacked and played with, or we are shifting between realities, you know, one way or the other. And it was extremely unsettling. Like for a week, I was like, what is going on? Because it would be, in a sense, for Christians, it would be like all of a sudden, you know, there was clear evidence that, I don't know, like you found a picture of Jesus, and you know, like it would be a smoking gun that yes, everything's real and it exists. Because to me, the Mandela effect is so revolutionary. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen or heard of, because it means that this reality or what we live in is not what we think it is, one way or the other. I always say it's not real, that this is just like a test run that we're doing. We're here to learn stuff. And so that was very unsettling. As far as spirituality, what it's really done for me is help me not have a fear of death so much.
yeah,
So that
I hear
has
you.
that really settled me down, because I was one of these guys that was trying to figure out how to be a cyborg or how to download my consciousness into a computer, and I was going to live forever. And now I'm like, yeah, man, you know, I'm just going to have fun here, and when I go out, I'm going to go out with a bang, and it'll be fun, and that'll be it. And I'll go on to something cool. So I'm not scared anymore, which helps a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to also ask you guys if you had any like near-death experiences that you don't mind sharing. You know, do you have any of those?
I have not.
Dr. Lupo, you played safe?
No. I'm not playing it safe. I'll tackle it. I thought I had a near-death experience, but what I found out is it's not called a near-death experience. I think I said it in a few shows. I had something called a spiritual transitioning event. So what it means by that is I was never highly spiritual. I never grew up in a religious household or anything like that. But I had a really bad time in my life where I got very sick and I should have died, and I was miraculously healed. One day I woke up and I had basically thrown in the towel and was like, okay, I will search myself spiritually and search myself emotionally and try to heal myself that way. And the next day things turned around. So it massively changed my life. Now for a year or two, it was hard. I had to do a lot of atoning. It's kind of like when someone goes through Alcoholics Anonymous and they're apologizing to everybody they hurt, and they did that. It's kind of the same thing. I lived a pretty crappy life for a few years where I was a bad guy, and I apologized to all these people that I hurt and tried to atone for what I did. And every time I did it, my life got a little better. And it was a hard and uncomfortable way to go. the right choice is usually the hard choice and uncomfortable. But as it got going, things got better and better for me. And now my life's pretty awesome, but it took a few years to get here. And my spirituality is very high now.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're vibrating at a higher frequency. Are we not, Carol? I mean, it seems like, I mean, they're talking about the Schumann resonance going up and everything of the Earth.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I would agree. I mean, again, I can't know anything more than what God allows. And I guess where my train of thought went while we were listening to what was shared, if you get back to Genesis and you look about, you look at the part where it talks about there's this energy form and that God sparks off something that comes into each of the beings that he creates to all living things. And we come in from another realm, the God realm, for lack of better terminology. And we lose sight of that balance, or that, remember I told you that when I had my experience, which basically at this stage I would call it the Kundalini experience, for lack of a better term. I think many Christians would call it a rebirthing experience. But when I felt the energy of God, and I knew that had to be what it was so perfect and so overwhelming that my fears about death were gone. And it's like, wow. I mean, if I move from my current reality into that energy field, which is God, at the transition or passing of my physical life, wow. I mean, it just blew me away. And I thought, why wouldn't you want to be there? You know, why wouldn't you want to have that experience? What is there to be afraid of? Because there is nothing as nurturing or loving or anything. I mean, we try to create that in this lifetime. But why wouldn't you want to go back to the Creator and feel the whole banana, sort of, so to speak, compared to the tiny little glimpses that we get in this life? It totally changed my perspective about my experiences and what people could or couldn't do. It just caused me to let go of all of these things. Like I said, I don't look at any what people might call a negative experience and say, and believe me, I was in there being a real knee-knocking, oh my God kind when I faced some pretty serious situations, and I backed off all of that. I don't get hung up in those things anymore. I keep it really simple. And by doing that, I feel like that I'm growing in my relationship with God, and I am already well on that path of, returning. I'm not having to wait until the day that I stop taking breath in this life. It kind of reminds me, if you've, and I suspect both of you have read some Wayne Dyer, and Wayne really got to a point where he let go of even watching some of the crazy things that we call entertainment in television stuff, and just really worked on celebrating the day in the moment, and letting go of these things that just are complicated. And negativity is extremely complicated. And it is very energy consuming to try to stay in that negativity. And I always feel sad. I find myself sad for people who are just negative and are so consumed by it because they don't, it's like being with somebody who sucks the air out of the room, for some kind of an analogy, to kind of describe what that is. And like I said, I think people currently, these things like the Mandela effect, are ways that it draws our attention. It's kind of like somebody coming around and shaking you, saying, hey, wake up, wake up. And I think every single human being on earth right now, I think things that we even hear in national news about what goes on our government, I hear some of the debates beginning to change, and they are moving more towards being enlightened. They're going really strange ways to get there, but I'm hearing thought processes. I'm hearing people look at things differently, and it's and we've needed it, because oh my God, when you look at some of the negative comments that people are so willing to make. I mean, even especially in our social media, and people sit in these situations and just think they can say or do anything to people, online. And I just think, why would you ever put energy into that? Why would you do that? And I think these people are being increasingly challenged. But if they have been clinging to their consciousness, they're not going to make, as I used to talk quite a bit to somebody who was a handwriting analyst, and she had worked with one client who absolutely wanted to change negative stuff, and she worked with her to change her handwriting to make that happen. And I could really relate to that, because handwriting is one of the first artistic forms that we learn. And but most people don't get up one day and say, gee, I think I'm going to make these changes, and smile about it. And I mean, it's a hard process. And especially when we come into a consciousness where we think it is really urgent to make that change. I mean, you can't be in life. Life is to live it. Even if you're fighting it, it is all about change and making changes, small, large, in between. But that negativity usually comes from people who want to control the situation or control the people that are around them, and it just doesn't work.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break your conversation.
No, that's okay.
I wanted, just adding to that, what you were saying, I was watching this YouTube video that popped up this morning on my feed, and it was talking about the 8 stages of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And how, like, level 1, you're blaming everyone else for your faults, and whatever happens to you is always someone else's fault. And level 2, you're like, wait a minute, I have some form of control. I can control the things that are happening to me in a more positive way. So I really think we're shifting upward on the scale. We're learning that we can control things, that we are in control of our lives, and that we can feed out, or filter out, the negativity. So, does that sound about right? I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Well, and then you get into vibrational patterns and what's going on in the science field now. And a lot of what's going on in the science field, if I'm looking at this from the metaphysical standpoint, if we are now looking at sending somebody to Mars, human beings, we probably don't quite have the technology. So what's the next technology that's going to evolve in a time when you think, wow, there's been so much in my lifetime that has allowed us to do things that we just couldn't even conceive. You know, are we going to find other universes with human equivalents out there somewhere? We're going to have to change form, and I think some of the old sci-fi things where, you know, they have the alien with the no hair and the really big foreheads because, you know, they're thought, and they're not having to open their mouth anymore. They're just thinking. The communication, you know, who's to say that's wrong or that isn't where we're going? I just think our minds are tremendously powerful. I just do, and we are truly in a much more you know, a much faster transitional, changing kind of time. But you have a lot of people who are still clinging to everything and everyone around them, and trying to stay grounded and trying to maintain control over something they have no control of. They have no control over this. They might as well just get in the flow and go.
I know, right? You might as well just jump in the car and ride along with it.
Exactly.
Now, I heard Dr. Lupo say one time, like you said one time on your show, it doesn't matter if you've seen one Mandela effect or a million of them, because there literally could be millions of Mandela effects still waiting to be found. And I remember you were talking about that one time.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's me and Vegan just had this talk today. Again, is you know, the Mandela effect to me is like a bundle of sticks that you might be able to break 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 of the sticks. But once you get a bundle of like 100 or 200 sticks, you can't break them anymore. And so there's all these skeptics and doubters out there that are like, oh, it's just confabulation, or people are all having a bad memory together. Yeah, you can say that for 5 or 10 things, but not 200. And so there's like at least 200 documented ones now. Even if some of those aren't real, say, even if just one is real, that's enough to be like, what is going on? That something's not right with this reality. So yeah, it only takes one, but some people's logical brains just cannot turn off, and you have to beat them over the head with 200 sticks. You know, here's until they finally just give in and go, okay, something's going on.
Yeah, you see a general pattern, you know, like in science and math. See, math and science, I'm sorry, whichever order it's supposed to be in. I can truthfully say, as an IT guy, I've had to memorize a lot of acronyms and everything like that, and I do computers and networking all day long. And I can truthfully say that my mind is being challenged every day by the Mandela effect. You know, my memory isn't 100% either. You know, I make mistakes, but when you see a general pattern of things that you cannot explain, at what point are people going to realize that this is real? You know, it's really happening, that our reality isn't what we thought it was.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Eventually, you know, I'm not sure what you've discussed on your channel, if you think this is leading up to end times, or I feel that there's a giant transition happening, and a lot of people are going to start waking up, but I don't think everybody will. I think a lot of people will be left behind that aren't ready, and they'll stay with this world. And so I do feel that, you know, I was one of the first guys to really talk about the how the Schumann resonance is affecting everyone, and that it's raising and raising and raising, and how high is it going to go? And I believe it's kind of a signal of that things are going to happen. And the reason people are so negative and cranky is because they can't get used to these new vibrations. But eventually they do. Like they used to really bother me when the resonance would spike, but now they don't, and they're spiking higher than ever. So I think maybe I've adjusted to it, and I'm starting to get up to the higher frequency. And I think a lot of people are. I think that raising a frequency is going to drag people up. If they want to be or not, they're going to start waking up. And I think it's a good thing. It's about darn time. I'm ready for some peace, happiness, and love in soul.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all kind of waiting for a sign or a symbol to come about. There's a lot of Christians that talk about the September 23rd date, which that's a hot topic of discussion. Now, I met a couple days ago with Miss Carol, and we talked for like 2 hours. And I don't even think we got a chance to speak much on the Mandela effect, Miss Carol.
No.
It's funny. I met her. Let me just give a little story about that. We met at a little small Mexican restaurant that's across from the base where I work at. And my first intention was to meet her, and we would talk possibly the Mandela effect in her newspaper, because she is a reporter. And the mass media is ignoring our thoughts and our opinions about the Mandela effect. They're ignoring us. It's nice to have somebody who works in media that can talk about this stuff, and that we can talk about it openly. And I was really astonished. Like, we talked for 2 hours, I think, about just spirituality, and we didn't even really touch much on the Mandela effect. But I wanted to bring up the September 23rd date. You see something positive coming about that. Can you explain what you saw?
Well, as I mentioned to you, some of what people are looking at, they're talking about astronomy, and the sign of Virgo as represented in a particular constellation, and that is a different area than talking about it astrologically, because astrologically, September 23rd actually is the beginning of Libra. The sun goes into Libra not quite 24 hours prior to the 23rd. And Libra is all about balance, and relating and so forth. And but even just thinking about, you talked a lot about 6, and of course, a lot of people think that the 666 sign is, one of the signs or symbols of revelations and so forth. And yet, if you look at things like what the meaning of 6 is, a 666 sign, you add them all up, and you actually are going to come up with a 9, because it's 18, and 9 is a number of completion, and that's been a historical sign. And like I said, I'm sitting here with a background different from you guys, in that I studied art, and a lot of what you do in art is actually take a look at symbols that have been recorded in paintings and artwork for centuries. And so you're sitting with somebody whose worldview, by training and so forth, is different maybe than what you all have experienced from your experiences. And so I don't, again, I am a Sagittarian, so that can be the eternal optimist if you're in your higher self. And that tends to be where it is. If I said numerology wise, my birth date is a 9. Again, that is the global kind of person. And so my point of view is very optimistic. And just even in trying to describe to you what my experience was when I was meditating, and how much that changed my life. I mean, I came from a time frame where I was the nail biter and the knee knocker, and everything was fearful in many respects. And And then I made this major change into not being afraid, to be okay with whatever, and not even needing to know what was coming. And of course, irony is, of course, that my third eye opens and I become a knower and can tell others about things that are coming into. But is that really what I want to do? No, it's not. Because, like I said, I'm firmly rooted in free will and people learning to exercise that and make those decisions for themselves. It's their right and it's their responsibility. So I was trying to think where I was going with this, but anyway, that's my point of view and perspective. And I think each of us are being challenged. We're being asked to learn to trust. And for a lot of people, I mean, it's the difference between objective, fact-finding, concrete kind of thinking versus being subjective and abstract. And people struggle with this issue of abstract things. They want things that are tangible and concrete. And we're in an element and a time frame, and we talked about speeding up of energies. That's all very, very creative energy and very abstract. And these people who are the naysayers and I'm not sure about this, they're being challenged. Their faith is being challenged. How do you explain these things? And if you're trying to explain it all within your one point of view, wow, you could really be out in left field someplace. So we're in a time when we have to learn to trust that we're playing our life out being one end of a seesaw, and the other end is not necessarily another person or thing. It is this abstract element of the creator or God, or however you want to describe that energy, and that we have to trust that is the real reality. It's not the seat we're sitting in. It's not the house we walk into. It's not any of these things that people struggle and try to identify their lives with. It's this abstract element. And I think never before has there been so much challenge in this area as there is right now.
Are you talking about with the Mandela effect, or like?
Oh, the Mandela effect, or any number of other things that people's attention have gone through, been drawn to, that bring this element up. Because I do think that, I think you've asked the question about why aren't people becoming more aware? Well, because they don't get it that way. They may have to get it another way. If you're in the education field, we talk about the kinesthetic learning versus the audio learner versus the visual learner. Not everybody is going to get it the same way. But as long as they are going to the same place, it's okay.
Dr. Lupo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I kind of wanted to get a spiritual opinion and a scientific view on ADHD, and is it a gift or a curse? It just seems like ADHD has just been brought up like in the 80s and 90s, and even more so now. A lot of kids have it nowadays, which it doesn't help with all this Facebook distraction and Twitter and all that. To keep up with everything, obviously our brains are having to compensate a little bit more, and we kind of get bored with everyday regular stuff. The Mandela effect has really perked my interest, because I myself have a form of ADHD and a little bit of OCD with that. But I wanted to get you guys' opinion about ADHD, if that's okay.
Sure, we could talk about this on all night, but you're one of the first people that's ever asked me that, and I think it's an interesting idea.
Sorry.
Because there's part of me that says, if we're supposed to evolve into higher beings and be at a better place and, like walk closer to God for you guys, our brains have to get better. That our brains are capable of handling massive amounts of information, and they've kind of been suppressed. So is ADHD God's plan for speeding brains up? So we can start taking in much more information. If you look at someone like me, that I've had technology most of my life, but compare me to a 12-year-old girl that lives on her cell phone, they can take enormous amounts of information and multitask at the same time. And people are like, well, they're ADHD. I don't know. Maybe the brain is, even though this is an uncomfortable way to do it, maybe it's part of an evolution. I don't know. Now, as a doctor, I have to say that ADHD is about 100% your diet and what you're feeding your kid. And I've seen kids completely reverse and stop being ADHD by fixing their diets and eliminating their inflammation. It's all about brain inflammation. They're usually eating something they're allergic to and don't know it. And the parents don't have enough damn discipline to tell their kid no, not to eat it. So what happens is these kids stay in a chronic inflammation, which eventually gets into the brain barrier, crosses it, and your brain gets inflamed. And those kids just live for 20, 30 years with inflamed brains that they cannot turn off. So it takes a bit of serious lifestyle change to deal with that. Now, that is what, in my opinion, in my practice, what I've seen. As far as the spiritual component, I don't know. Maybe society's supposed to have inflamed brains so they can, work at high speeds. I never thought about it. Maybe it's the next stage of evolution. I don't know. But I feel that I know as a doctor, I really try to bring inflammation down, and every one of those kids usually get a lot better if you just are a diet Nazi with them. And
actually, that's what my doctor had said about my son, because he has ADHD also. Avoiding the sugar, having less carbs, eating more protein in the morning, that sort of helps.
Yeah, that stuff definitely helps. Find what the allergic component is. And every patient I've ever had with ADHD has a leaky gut. Every one of them. So do gut repair first, and you'll be surprised how much the brain heals. You've got a couple places where there are barriers. One of them is your gut barrier, one of them is your kidneys, one of them is your lungs, and one of them is the brain barrier. These barriers are not supposed to be crossed, but as inflammation takes over your body, these holes start breaking in these barriers, and things get into places they're not supposed to get in and cause a constant allergic reaction. So the first barrier to break down is pretty much always the gut barrier, because they're eating a terrible American diet, chicken nuggets and Coca-Cola and all that. You can't even send your kid to government school without giving them leaky gut. Like the stuff they serve at, how healthy is food that, costs 50 cents to make? If you send your kid to government school, they're going to get leaky gut. So you got to deal with the gut issue. And then as the gut barrier heals, guess what else heals? The lung barrier, the brain barrier, the kidneys. So these kids will all of a sudden stop being asthmatic. The brain barrier will heal, and their inflammation will go down, and they'll be able to start concentrating again. They'll be like, wow, I can actually complete a task. So it is almost always a gut problem first.
Like when you say gut problem, are you talking about like the physical stomach, or are you what are you talking about? Like
I am talking about the lining, the actual xylem fibers that get destroyed, and the so your gut, your actual intestinal lining has cells that are next to each other, and they're joined together through fibers. And what happens is constant irritation makes these fibers open up, and stuff gets from the gut into the bloodstream that's not supposed to be there. So as you get holes in your gut from eating bad foods, what happens is over time, pieces of those foods, those protein particles, cross the gut, get into the blood, and then your body says, hey, this piece of chicken nugget's not supposed to be in here. You know, this is a foreigner. So your body flags it as a invading bacteria, basically, or an invading parasite, and marks it for destruction. So what happens is every time you eat this, you get a full-blown immune response. And as you do this for 10 years and you keep eating whatever you're allergic to, chicken nuggets, gluten, milk, dairy, whatever the big ones are, they start constantly staying inflamed. And then eventually it's weird that your immune system just kind of accepts it and shuts down. You start getting really sick all the time. So until you identify the problem, this kid will stay sick his whole life. So if they have leaky gut, whatever food they like the most. Are you okay over there?
Carol,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was worried about you.
No, sinus. That's
No,
all
no.
I can tell you. Yeah, you
That's
know,
right.
deep south stuff.
You got leaky gut. There you go.
That's it.
chemtrails. We have Air Force bases around here. Chemtrails.
Yeah, chemtrails, all that stuff, and all that stuff assaults the gut and the skin, and you know the toxic chemicals assault that healthy gut lining too. But the first breakdown is always the gut, and then you basically what happens is if you have these holes in your gut, you become allergic to your favorite food. So whatever you're eating the most will start to leak through, and in time you will become allergic to it. So if you love cheese, you'll become allergic to cheese. You love nuts, you'll become allergic to nuts. That's the or allergic, or they call it food sensitive. Food sensitive. With those things going on, what you will find out is once all of a sudden you start hitting later on, you will start becoming allergic to everything you eat. You're like, man, I used to be able to eat a milkshake, but now I'm crippled if I do. And you will start being allergic to all your favorite foods. And that is a huge sign that your gut's in big trouble. Now, I don't know why we got into a health talk, but
yeah, we were talking about
ADHD. Well, you asked. You said explain science, and then you asked spirituality.
Well,
so
everything you're saying is actually what my son's doctor was pointing to nutrition. The only problem is these kids today. Carol, are you still with us?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just making sure. You know, it seems like a lot of things revolve around nutrition, and it's hard to have good nutrition nowadays with all the GMOs and the foods, and it's like you have to pay more to get.
Yeah. I mean, you do. Yes. So you do have to pay more usually to eat healthy to an extent, but there are a lot of things. Believe it or not, you know, some fruit's still cheap. Some people are like really hung up. Well, it's not a GMO, and you know, it's GMO fruit and all that. And it's true that stuff's not healthy for you. But the fact of you avoiding vegetables and fruit because you're scared it might have pesticides or something, those nutrients far outweigh the pesticides. So just the fact that you're not eating nutrients out of a real piece of fruit and vegetable is a problem, you know. And if you're that worried about it, you should see what they put in meat. You know, if you think your vegetables are bad, you don't even want to know what's in that processed meat.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you what my son's diet was because my ex-wife and I, he was eating McDonald's like all the time. He would want a Happy Meal. He wouldn't eat regular food. We couldn't get him to eat, and so I think that's where a lot of his ADHD could have stemmed from. You're absolutely right. Nutrition.
Yeah. What happens is the kids will start off kind of normal, but if their parents were inflamed, like if you have a wife who has a lot of food sensitivities or has an autoimmune disease, or you do, you will pass those antibodies to your kids. So the next generation has all these antibodies ready to go. All you have to do is trigger them. So you either feed this kid a bunch of junk food, they get sick, or lo and behold, they get a vaccine. And that will be enough to trigger all kinds of hell breaking loose in the body. and it'll set them up where they have to. I mean, is ways to reverse all that vaccine damage and stuff like that, but in chemical damage, and there are ways to do it. But unfortunately, we are breeding generations and generations of highly inflamed kids that are now food sensitive to everything, because the parents were, and they passed it on. And then their parents were, and they passed it on. So we are going to have a tidal wave of people who cannot eat or function without autoimmune diseases unless they are practically vegan. I mean, that's about all you can do now. Is there's going to be this big pushback. So, you can get away with eating that crud for a long time, but it eventually catches up with you. And if you don't want your kid to be ADHD and hyper, it's such a hard fight for parents, because they're like, well, what do I do about school lunches? What do I do with their friends? And what do I do with, it takes discipline, man. Guess what, parents? You had a kid. You're responsible. I'm sorry you have to make the hard choices, but your kid's life is at stake. Yeah. What quality do they going to have when they have all these problems, man? It's a lifetime of problems. So that's it. I'm going to get off my little soapbox. Go ahead and do what you want to talk about.
Thank you, Dr. Lupo, for talking about that stuff. It's pertinent to what's happening today. And as far as, I think we pretty much beat a dead horse with the nutrition.
Sorry. What it is here? I'll give you the 2-second breakdown. Is try to the easiest way is to get a food sensitivity panel, like a test done. Okay. And then eliminate whatever comes across. Cyrex has a good one. It's a little expensive, but worth it. Cyrex Labs. Your doctor insurance is not going to pay for it. You'll have to come out of pocket. Eliminate the foods that come back and give them some glutamate powder to repair the gut lining. And between those two things, if you eliminate what's irritating them and repair the gut, you'll go a long way with that ADHD.
So the rest of the body should heal some, right?
Or fast them. I'm a big believer in fasting your kids. Fast them.
Yes. Since the intestinal change, I don't know if you guys noticed back around October, but or if you had this experience, but I had a lot of IBS-like symptoms from October to probably November. Shifted in October. I don't know about you guys. With the intestinal tract seems different. Maybe you could just briefly talk about that, and also some of the bones have changed. The skeleton. You're an expert at that.
Yes, it'd probably be a little easier to pull up pictures. I wish I had some pictures ready to go. But yeah, the intestine doesn't look like it used to. To me, when I was learning about it way back in the day, the intestine used to just drop right into the bowels. Like the stomach would go to the small intestine and would drop right down. Now it goes all the way around the pancreas and makes a U-turn and drops down. And I don't remember that at all. I mean, that's like a horrible design for pushing food against gravity through a U-turn. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that one really kind of was crazy to me. The intestinal tract doesn't make any sense now.
I know when they added that new organ now, the mesentery, or we just discovered it, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, mesentery. The mesentery is a whole different animal. It is the when I went through, like when I was dissecting bodies and working at the morgue, the mesentery was always there. It wasn't like it wasn't new. But what they figured out was you could spread the whole thing out, and it sort of acted like an organ. So for me, I think some of that is just kind of Mandela hype, where people are like, "There's a new organ." Mesentery has always been there for me. They just never named it the mesentery. But there are plenty of other changes. I just don't agree with that one.
What about the one about the chin? Because we had a lot of people in our audience actually feeling their chins too. Is this a hype, or is that a real one, you think?
Again, you're talking about my anatomy period changed from 1990 to when I went through chiropractic school. I graduated right at the turn of the century. Chiropractic school, the foramens in the face were always there, because like when I dissected a face, you would see the nerves have to come out somewhere, so there has to be holes for them to come through the skull. They were always there for me in this later stages. As a kid, I don't remember because I really didn't look that high. But as far as the foramens, also always been there for me. I'm not sure if this one's more hype than real, because people are like, those holes in the face, what do you think? And I'm like, well, it's kind of, how do you think nerves come out, man? You know, where do you think these nerves go? So they've always been there. They look a little bigger maybe, but that's all I got with that one. Now they're I'm not going to discount it, because all of us kind of have different, you know, maybe they're from different reality, or I am, or whatever, a different shift. So maybe it was that way in theirs, but that doesn't match mine. But you know, I've got like 20 anatomy changes that are real to me. So it's just those two new ones I don't really agree with that much.
Is it possible that you could like text it to me at some point, and I'll post it in the comments or something? Is that cool?
But what, text what?
The skeletal changes.
I mean, we could talk about a few, but you know, it's let's see. Give me a minute. Go ahead and talk to her, and I'll see if I can figure out some pictures to show.
Yeah, just a couple big ones, I guess would be fine.
Yeah, give me a minute. I have to figure out where I put them.
We were talking about ADHD, and I know it's funny kind of getting off track a little bit. That's part of the ADHD issue.
Thanks for a good talk show host. It's good. It's good.
I wanted to get the more spiritual side of that. So, Carol, do you want to talk about ADHD? Have you noticed anything about that spiritually?
I really haven't. I don't know that this is something I can address. I could probably make a few educated guesses, but it's really not something I've put much thought into.
Okay. Let's see. There's a couple of other questions about dreams. A lot of people are saying they either don't dream anymore, or they're something with their dreams. Like maybe they have repetitive dreams. Have you ever noticed any of that lately, or?
Lately, I probably am hearing more dream discussions. And just from, again, my own experience is that if you've gone from a situation where you didn't particularly remember your dreams, or they didn't seem to recur, and now they are recurring, then I really think the other realm is trying to reach out to you and draw your attention to something. I mean, I've done quite a bit of dream interpretation over the years. But like I said, when you have something that's recurring, and I had that experience years ago, that was probably even earlier than the two significant times that I talked about. Was I can remember this instance where I had the most unusual dream, and it kept recurring to the point that I felt led to contact the people that were in the dream that I had not talked to in, I don't know, 10, 15 years or so. So I do firmly believe that your attention is being drawn, and you need to kind of stop and think about what that means to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a screen share, Dr. Lupo. Could you talk about that?
Sure, lock me in on that. And what I want to show you is, this is what I was talking about before. In my reality, the small intestine used to just, when you went through the duodenum and everything, it would just drop into the small intestine. And this new reality, it wraps all the way around the pancreas, does a U-turn, and then drops on the other side of the body. I do not remember learning that. That is very strange to me. So that's that one I was talking about earlier. I've got some more.
Okay.
If you want me to answer any other questions here, but I'll show, I think some people were asking about the heart, so give me a minute and I'll pull that up. So
I will tell you something funny about that. I went to the VA recently, and my Indian doctor, he placed the stethoscope over to check my heartbeat, and he put it on the left, like where it's supposed to be in our reality. Like, and I didn't even mention the Mandela effect to him because I'm sure he wouldn't understand it in any terms easy. But yeah, I remember it being slightly to the left.
yeah.
A lot of people say it's dead center now. Is that right?
Well, lock me in and I'll show you a picture. So here's what I'm looking at. And in the old reality, the heart was much more horizontal and to the left side. And a lot of times, and in this new reality, it hangs a lot more vertical and it's kind of in the center. It's not nearly as far out into the ribs and it's lower. So I remember specifically a lot of movies when I was a kid and stuff like that. The whole plot lines would revolve around they shot the person on the wrong side. You know, oh, you didn't kill him. You shot him on the right instead of the left side of the heart. Well, now, you know, the heart's in the center, and that doesn't make any sense. And in like the Pledge of Allegiance, you always put your hand over your left. You don't put your hand in the center. So there's some old reality still floating around about the heart, the way the heart used to be.
That's right. I actually saw somebody post. I'm not sure who it was, but they posted on YouTube. There's a clip from Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, and where the part where the guy reaches in and grabs the heart out.
Yeah.
That part, and he reached into that side where the heart used to be.
Right.
So that's a little bit of residue.
That's a good, yeah, that's a good one. And I think there's still a lot of it probably out in fiction. Like when they shoot the vampire, they shoot him on, or the werewolf or whatever, they'd hit him with a silver bullet on one side, or the vampire, they'd stick him to the left. That sort of stuff, you know, I mean, where did they get those ideas? So there has to be something. Why does all this fiction have it? All right, so someone's asking over and over about the kidneys. So let's talk about them. Now, this is just like a drawing, and it is almost comical how these kidneys look, because the kidneys in the old reality set very much in the low back, and the new reality, they're like saying they're high up into the rib cage. I mean, this is ridiculously, I mean, this is a crude drawing, but that's really odd to me. And I've got a better shot. Let me show you the better shot. So this is a comparison of the kidneys. The old kidneys, in the old reality, the kidney would stick out at least halfway from the last rib. In the new reality, it's tucked up. It's like 2/3 from the last rib. So I remember, you know, doing kidney entrapments and things like that. And I'm very aware that the kidneys are not the same. One's lower than the other. I know this. But we used to do a thing where someone would push on the diaphragm and it would push the kidney down behind, under the rib cage, and you would pin the kidney to see if there was nodules on it. And so I remember that well. And the kidneys just seem super strange to me now that they're that high. It doesn't make much sense. So there you go. And then if you want one last one, I'll give you one last.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Then the last one I have is this one here about the stomach. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a good picture in the old reality. I had to kind of use a cartoon. But it shows that the stomach was much more horizontal and kind of sitting down, like when you ate it dropped in, where now, you know, it's all the way pushed up and crammed to one side. And it feels like the liver is gigantic now. And it's almost like they had to fit a gigantic liver in and it pushed the stomach up. And so this is a very odd thing for me too. I don't remember the liver being that enormous.
Yeah, and it almost looks like that part from Aliens. It looks like the Aliens, you know, that movie with Sigourney Weaver, you know, the head of the alien, kind of, it's all weird.
All right, so I hope that answered your anatomy questions. That's just a little taste. There you go.
Yeah, I know we kind of got off topic a little
Well, no, I mean,
bit there.
I'm glad I had those.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So, Carol, I'm going to let you lead the way for a minute, talking about the more spiritual aspect. See, there was a question I had. I mean, I know there's this huge interest in RH negatives. What is it? What is it about RH negatives? Because you're an RH negative, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you know, what is it that makes the RH negatives different?
I don't know that I'm just not the science person here, so I don't know that that's really something I can address.
It's okay.
I do think that when I've talked about blood types with people that I know, generally when you're dealing with that negative, they tend to be more open as individuals in terms of what reality is, in terms of their spiritual thought processes. That's probably the most I could really say.
Yeah, that's fine. We had a question in the chat. I just noticed from Erin. She says, ask her when she first heard of CERN. Have you ever heard of CERN? Like all of a sudden this place appeared out of nowhere.
I have, but you know, I just don't pursue. It's just not where my focus goes these days. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't get real hung up on that stuff. There was a time that I probably would have researched that kind of thing, but I really work to be present in my life and be in the moment. And I just don't put myself really out there contemplating those kinds of things.
Yeah, I hear you. Which Mandela effect resonates with you? Like which and did you hear about the Mandela effect before it was even called the Mandela effect? Did you feel like something was different?
Well, like I said, my background is art. That is my education and training. That's been an interest of mine. And so that whole area of visuals
Wow.
have been interesting to me for a long time. There are a number of theories out there relating to the parallel universes. And so again, I'm a firm believer that we all don't take in information or process it in the same way. And so I think it's important that there are a lot of ways to kind of get to the same thought processes or the same ideology or the same theories or any of this. But in the end, it's all about your attention being drawn, getting you to kind of compare where you are with your experience at that time and what comes to mind that shifts within you to kind of move you into a new realm or a new point of view. I That's been going on for a long time. So for me, the Mandela effect is just one of many. And but when you boil it down to what the essence is, it is again about letting go of yourself, balancing out more with kind of, I guess a lot of people would say like a higher energy form or a higher thought process or something of that nature, and balancing yourself in some way. And I do think that there is a certain amount of, if you're not balancing very well, and the biblical connotation is always ask and receive, knock and the door will open kind of thing, where you have to direct your attention, you have to phrase the question in your mind or in your heart, and you have to take the action and be open to these kinds of things. And historically, I mean, you just, you I don't care what culture you're in, when people begin to seek, they're drawn to things, and that drawing makes changes for them, and often it has to do with balancing and harmonizing the self.
And balancing and harmonizing. Can you briefly touch on that?
Well, like I said, I mean, you have free will, you have to exert kinds of things, but there's also this element where you have to trust and believe that there is something outside of yourself that's kind of bigger and larger. And um, I can't imagine calling it an energy any other way than a creative energy, because I mean, what is change if it is not creativity? And of course, again, I grew up in a fine arts type home life, although my father was an engineer. And so there was a little bit of the left brain present in the household. But, that's what fine arts is all about, is that balancing, harmonizing, everything that makes up you. I mean, I come from the background and the culture where music is much of a part of the religious experience, as is the art. One of the things that I like about St. Anthony's is, whereas there are lots of churches in this area with lovely stained glass, I love those windows that look out into nature and have that element, of the cross and in nature. I just think that's such a perfect visual harmony of that spiritual element. I just think it is. But harmony means that, and balancing means that you stop some of your conflicts, your internal conflicts. You learn to be more quiet as an individual. You're not sitting there questioning and have to this and have to that anymore. You just kind of let go, let God. You're in the moment. Like I said, when I had my experience, I just cannot emphasize. And I wasn't really seeking that experience. I was trying to really work on just stilling myself and be in harmony. But that became kind of part of the boatload that came my direction. And like I said, to describe an energy as loving, and it was an intense love. It was an active love. It was something that almost was so concrete, and yet the nature of it and how it came to me was such a creative abstract, kind of thing. And to trust that that's really what God is. I mean, again, if you go back to the biblical stuff or a lot of books that are out there that you can read, you're asking people to be abstract and do trust. So when you get these senses that are a little bit more tangible, it's kind of startling to think that the abstract could be also tangible in a sense. But we have to keep walking this line, you know. A lot of times when people are out here seeking prophets or psychic readers or anything that can tell them about their connection to the other side or the other realm, you know, again, they're trying to be told what to do or what to expect. And really what it's all about is learning just to get still and trust and take your little baby steps that are given to you to do on a daily basis. That's really what that harmony and balance is all about.
Right. And I don't know if some of you guys out there in the audience have doctors or whatever. I actually have, and there's a certain kind of balance that I've learned, you know, dealing with stress and anxiety. You know, like I always kind of shied away from getting in front of too many people, but I realize in my job and daily life, I'm being called upon more and more. Steady balance. And I've noticed something different about me than, you know, the old man that I was, say, last year around this time. I don't have any road rage or anything like that anymore. And it's not because of the meds that I'm on. It's because that I've realized that extreme or intense anger really gets you nowhere in this world.
It's unproductive.
You can go and let God take control. And you hit the nail on the head. And you were talking about creativity. I've heard that skill, actually, like creativity is a function of time, and skill is the repeated use of creativity. Quote, I've tried to live by that. And it's like you were saying earlier, I think you hit the nail on the head. I wanted to share with you guys a couple of pieces of artwork. You mentioned artwork, so I kind of was leaning in that direction. If you tell me if you recognize any of these things, is actually remember them. Abe Lincoln. Do you remember his palm being face down, or was it always balled up in a fist like that? And these are possible Mandela effects have been talked about. Moses with the horns. That, I mean, you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You remember Moses with horns?
Well, I mean, I've seen it in life and I studied it for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, wow. What about Whistler's mother? Do you remember anything different about her?
I don't know. Was it her hands folded?
There's a lot of people that remember her having like a phonograph next to her, such as this picture that was sent to me by Rena Jaceel. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on that one, if it was any different to you guys.
Now, of course, you're talking about a very iconic figure that has been used.
Could be a mismemory.
So they may be remembering one of those iconic advertisements.
But then again, there is the Mona Lisa, and a lot of people don't seem to remember her having a veil. She has a veil now. You see the veil on her head?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I don't. I definitely don't remember the Mona Lisa having a veil. I
had
remember the smirk that is outrageously smirk now, because I remember when I was a kid, it was not that way. There's barely a smile at all. And they'd be like, what is she smiling about? And now she's like cracking up.
I know, right?
No, I have not seen
Yeah,
the
I would
veil.
agree.
Where's this veil?
Anyways, I know I just flashed that up. I wanted to get your opinion about it. Since you mentioned artwork. Oh, and there was one more thing. Actually, if do you remember the snakes or snake on top of King Tut's head?
These
Because a lot of
snakes,
people
yes.
seen one snake. Was there two or one? Or was it a snake and a bird? Which one do you remember? And I know I'm probably...
No, I think it was just one.
And you may be surprised to find out that, I mean, countless people remember one snake, like you just said, and you look at King Tut. Let me pull it up and show you guys. Sorry, I didn't have this pre-prepared. One sec. Okay, that's what it looks like today. And I've actually seen this go through two changes. I remember it being one snake, and then it like shifted to two snakes. And now, like within the last month or two, maybe 3 months perhaps, it shifted to a vulture. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I only
Go
remember one
ahead.
snake. That bothers me a lot. There was only ever one snake. Now it's got all kinds of stuff going on.
I'm trying to see what, Dr. Lupo, are you seeing any questions in the chat that people want to mention?
I'm not seeing questions. There's just a lot of talk right now. Anybody actually have a question they'd like us to address? There's just a lot of people talking about the snakes. But I'll feed it in if something comes.
Okay. While you're checking that real quick, I'm gonna post a sideline number if anyone wants to call in and ask questions, because I know Dr. Lupo, he's got to leave very soon, and
well, it's just that I'm fasting and I'm getting sleepy, and when it hits, I'm down.
Yeah.
Then I come back like Lazarus. I'm back like an hour or two later. So I don't know. See, I did that joke for you Christians there, but nobody's. There we go. I'm getting nowhere. That's my grade A stuff here.
well, I think we've talked about fasting, how it increases. Actually, I don't think we did talk about it, did we? We talked about it in
No,
group chat.
I think we talked about it before. Yeah. For some of the people that are watching my channel, they'll. I've been kind of like taking nature walks during this fast and doing some live streams while I'm walking and talking about fasting. But since you have a largely Christian audience, the Bible talks about fasting a lot. And when you really want to pray hard, and you fast. So what do you know about that, Brian?
Well, truthfully, honestly, for the last 6 weeks, I have been fasting from Friday to Sunday.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Have you noticed a difference?
Yeah, I've dropped 42 pounds.
Holy cow. You just fast every weekend, and that's huge. 42 pounds. And how?
But I do walk a lot, and of course I do allow myself to drink milk and have I can because you gotta have calcium and protein, otherwise your bones will collapse. And like grapefruit, I eat grapefruit a lot.
So you're doing you're not doing a water fast. You're doing kind of just a very low calorie fast.
Yes.
Gotcha. And have you noticed any difference in your spirituality in that?
Yeah, and it's funny, but last Thursday, this spirit entity entered my phone conversation when I was on the phone with Rena. She's one of my loyal subscribers, and we were just on the phone, and this thing jumps right in, and
I don't care anymore.
hate to bring negativity. This thing scared me out of my wits. Okay, I'm not going to say exactly what it said. But, you guys can go back and view it if you want. It scared me out of my wits, and like something I felt something, and maybe it was because of the fasting has given me greater spiritual power. I think so. I felt like a shiver come over me, and I was able to deal with that evil entity at the time. I would have been terrified otherwise. So the fasting increases your DMT levels in your brain, and it's been proven to make you more spiritual. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's very cool that you just did that on your own and you've had such great success. I'm still waiting for the spiritual breakthrough. It's due any day soon. Usually when I've done this before, I have to go through at least a week fasting, and then like day 7, 8, 9, 10, the spirituality wakes up. The DMT, I guess, hits hard or something. But I'm waiting. I'm excited. I'll be entering day 7 tomorrow. So, or 6. What am I on now? I'm on day 6 now. 7. Yeah, 7 tomorrow. So hopefully by tomorrow I should start feeling it. Do you keep getting these questions about, has anyone noticed that there is an M on palms of the hands? So I guess they're talking about like the lines in your hand, that there's some people that have M's. This is new to me. I've never heard this. So Suso wants to talk about that. Tell me what you know. Yeah, I don't. This is new to me.
Well, you know how there's those 3 lines that you have on your palm that everyone has? Some people have an additional line that crosses over through the center line, and therefore making an M. One of my hands does that for sure, but the other hand I can't be certain of.
Hold it up to the webcam. Let me see what you're talking about.
You see the M it sort of makes? Back it up a little bit. You see that?
You see mine?
Yeah,
Yeah,
back them up a little.
Yeah, she's got it big time. You see that?
Lock it in on her. I can't really see it when we talk.
Can you speak so it'll show up, Carol?
Huh? Oh, I need to be talking.
Yes.
You see it?
Back
And
it up a little.
That's become more pronounced over time.
Yes.
Can't see it. It's too close. Back up. There you go. The way, let me help you, Brian. The way to lock someone in is, if you want to show just her on Google Hangouts, click the picture of her and it'll highlight it.
Oh,
and then when you're done, it'll click it again. It'll take it off. So that way, like if I'm talking and you're talking, it'll still show her. Okay.
See, I'm an IT guy and I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's useful. That's why I keep saying lock it in. That's what I mean, is hit the highlight, and then now I can really take a good look at the palm.
Can you raise it up a little bit higher, Carol, so they can see it? Yeah, do you guys see that? She has a very pronounced M. What about your other hand? Is it like that too?
I see it now. Yeah. Okay.
You see that?
No, I don't think I have anything that cool.
She has like a vertical line, like almost like a Z. It looks like Zorro, kind of.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you really are an empath. She is an empath for sure.
So that's what people are saying, that the empaths or psychics have M's?
Yes. Yes, you have a little bit more emotional sensitivity.
It stands for mojo? You have more mojo? Is that what that is? I don't think I have it. I've got a really long lifeline, though. But other than that, no, I don't know if I have an M. People are asking me. I don't see it like you guys have it. No, I'm not cool enough. I'm not part of the cool club.
It's all right.
It's the first time I've ever heard of that.
Really?
Yep. What do you think the M stands for, Carol?
I don't know. I mean, I've only studied palmistry a little bit, and it's really not the M so much as the lines are connecting certain elements of your life. It just, because M is part of our our alphabet, that we see it as a letter, but it really has to do with the lines and what the lines represent and the meaning. So I've got curious kids again.
No, that's not it.
Well, they're getting media attention because
They're cute.
I think the media isn't really covering stuff, so people are jumping on YouTube, checking us out, and it's so horrible how, like, I think about the news media and it's like there's a lot of fake news. I'm tired of hearing about fake stuff and negativity. I think a lot of people tune it out now. Am I right?
Well, I mean, you've just been inundated with stuff, and then you have the hash and the rehash that are splitting hairs and going places that it just shouldn't go.
Yeah, and I'm the wrong guy to ask about that because I purposely put up fake news today for fun. So if you want to go to my channel, there's a funny story, fake news story. Other than that,
I'll have to put that in the
I have
comments.
not seen your show, but that would.
oh well, every once in a
I
while,
would
like
be
I get an itch to do comedy, and so I just did like an Onion style fake news article.
And I'm sure it's like, is it like a satire?
Oh,
Something like
completely. Yeah. If you didn't know it was really fake, you got problems. Like,
well, there are
I'm
people
embracing the fake news.
well, I mean,
But it's on the internet. Isn't that supposed to make it true?
It does. Okay, you can tell everybody it's true. That'll make it more awesome.
I remember, it's funny you said the internet and being true and all that. I remember when I was in college, we could not use Wikipedia as a source.
Yeah.
Can they do that now? We didn't even have really computers that much. Like we were like one of the only guys that was like a typewriter. I guess that's aging me. But it was just like you could do just very basic stuff. There was
it electric or standard? I'll tell you how aged you are.
I had a computer, but it didn't do much. Like I think the entire memory on it was 56K or something, or like I remember it was really just a word processor. But in college that was pretty nice to have your own word processor. So I guess kids are screwed today that they can't get someone else to write their stuff, or you can't do perjury. Because back in my day it was easier. You could just buy a paper someone had wrote and submit it. Now you can't get away with that, and kids can't get away with prank calling either. They can't do anything fun.
They actually have software programs that teachers use to see if you're plagiarizing. You know that?
Yeah, I think they do that. So I mean, it's got to be very easy to just cut and paste a whole report together. I know I would have tried it for sure.
Oh, definitely. I took a humanities class, and because I didn't document it properly the way you're supposed to with the parentheses and the last name and the page number you found it, because I didn't do that, they marked me for plagiarism. So I was able to redo the paper and get the grade, but it put me in a tight spot. I am going to be opening up the phone lines, you guys, in just a second.
All right, go ahead and let's take some calls before I fall asleep on you.
Yeah, I don't want that happening.
It's not you. It's just I'm just tired right now.
Really
like I don't know. I mean, you fast, so sometimes it just hits you, and I'm wrestling with it.
I know it does. Truthfully, honestly, especially late at night. I used to work nights, and I remember eating to stay awake.
That's a quick way to put those 40 pounds on. Night eating.
Oh, that can stay away. I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
Your cat clock in the background, it's sort of distracting. Is that like the one from Back to the Future?
Yeah, that's actually called the Kit Kat clock. If any of you guys are looking, feel free to go through my Amazon link and buy it. Here's a little box that comes in. I
Awesome.
love my clock, and I always get comments about it, so I keep the box around, and you guys are, they sell it on Amazon. If you want to buy it, please go through my link and buy it. That'll be good.
That's awesome. Where do you have the link? It's on your main page?
Oh, yeah, I guess it's not on yours. It's on every story I do. When YouTube, you know, I was a full-time YouTube creator that was making a living on YouTube, and then the YouTube boycott happened about 2 months ago and killed our income all across the board. All these creators, I make about a quarter of what I was making 2 months ago. So to make up the difference, I have an Amazon link where I encourage people, if they're going to go shopping on Amazon, to go through my link first. And then what happens is I get a little cut of whatever you buy, and it doesn't cost you any different. It's like a free way to support the show. So that has helped a lot to bridge the gap from YouTube taking away all of our money.
I understand completely, because a lot of people were relying it as the main source of bread, and now they kind of cut that off. It's like, wait a minute now.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I'm sure it'll come back, because, you know, YouTube is losing money too. It's not like they're keeping the money and not giving. They don't have advertisers. And what's crazy is the advertisers are just hurting themselves, because YouTube has way more eyes than cable TV or news or anything. It's the biggest platform in the world. So the advertisers are just killing themselves, not putting themselves in here. I think they're going to feel that, and they will be back. But it's just, you know, it's just, and YouTube's not going to settle for it, because they're losing insane amounts of money. So there you go. It should hopefully recover someday. But in the meantime, Amazon's keeping me alive in donations.
That's awesome, brother. You know, I will be sure to get one of those clocks. I really want one now.
All right, I'll get you a link. I'll give you the Amazon link. I'll drop it in there. Yeah, the Kit Kat clocks are great. I love them. I'm trying to get an interview with the company, because they've been around since 1930 making the same clock. So I've been trying to score an interview with them, because I just love their clock so much. And if they don't, I'm still going to unofficially just, you know, I'm sure they would never brand with me. But, you know, I want to unofficially be like, hey, buy this clock. Go through Amazon. So, oh, it's even on sale right now. All right, I'll drop the link in the chat room, and anybody else that wants to get it, it's an awesome clock. Everybody loves it. It's like old school. All right, I will stop hijacking your show. And
you're welcome, Teresa. And I apologize. We were running short on time, and she was trying to explain to me about this new Mandela effect. I'm very thankful for the people that I talked to, and thank you, Dr. Lupo. I appreciate that link. I'm very thankful that the people I talked to were always looking for stuff like that, and Teresa Lynch has been a great asset, and so is Rena Jaceel. So and a lot of you other guys, Salted Cedar. I know I've seen you a lot, Aaron. I really appreciate you guys out there. We have, that's one thing about the Mandela effect, is we have the growing strong support now. Okay. I did open up the call line. I don't know if they saw it, but the number is 334-787-9930 if anyone wants to call in. It's okay, Teresa. You can talk if you want.
come on, Teresa, we'll be nice.
Yeah, we'll be nice.
I'll make jokes, and if you stall or stutter, we'll just keep going and cover for you. Don't even worry about it. And no one can see you. You can hide behind a telephone.
Exactly.
Just like little kids who used to prank call in the 80s. You'll be fine.
I'm taking my phone off vibrates so I will actually hear it go off. I'm bad about that sometimes. But yeah, there's a certain you know, the amount of time that you devote to the Mandela effect, doctoring, like live chats and everything, I will join you, and we'll talk one day. And
yeah, man, come on my show. I didn't know you were interested. I'd be happy to extend you the invite. Come on, and you know, I've been trying to put together a Christian panel again, and it's taken me months to find a panelist. But if you want to come on that show, I'm just going to sit back and let you all go at it. It'd be good. And so I'd be excited if you want to be on that panel.
Do it if you want. You know, I think Dr. Lupo wouldn't mind having you either.
If you wanna rumble with the rest of them, jump on in. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm always open.
Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to even though I have a lot of Mandela stuff, you know, I do break it up and have all kinds of different. The idea of my channel is I'm willing to let anyone talk about it as long as they're polite and no matter what angle they come from. So you know, some. I will have a spiritual, I'll have a science background. Oh, sorry, someone on? Go ahead, I'll shut up.
Oh, Aaron has a question from the chat. Guys, is it okay if I let her? Aaron, did you want to talk? You can ask her directly. It's fine. You don't have to worry. Do you want me to relay it?
No.
Oh. Okay. Aaron wanted to know: have you noticed any changes or differences in the sun? To Carol, the question is for Carol. Have you noticed any changes recently in the sun? And what else did you want me to ask? Time passage, like time flying. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that suggest that the sun could be, mind you, an artificial sun. There's definitely changes in the sun that people are saying. Have you noticed anything different about it? And time moving faster?
Well, I mean, if you approach that question astrologically, again, you know, it gets into the axis shift stuff, and you know, a lot of people again got into, oh my God, we're going to have this axis shift, and it's almost like everybody's going to fall off the earth or something. And you know, you wait long enough and somebody's going to get curious and go out and prove something. And in effect, they prove that, again, the earth is a very fluid, creative energy, and that it has shifted numerous times. And they were able to do that by going out and taking soil samples and testing the magnetics, and they were able to determine that. So, astrologically speaking, yes, there are distances. The distance has changed in relationship stuff. You know, in effect, yes, it feels like and it looks like at times that things are speeding up. If they aren't, we are getting inundated with so many more ways or things that we need to put to create time for, that our days are just increasingly more full. And so could it be that things are speeding up? Could it be that we're accomplishing more things? Or could it be that we just have that many more things that we're tasked to do? And we stay so busy that time feels like it, you know, is speeding up. I don't know. But I do know that the net effect is it just feels like that we're in a movie projector fast forward kind of situation, and it just seems to be increasing.
Yeah, I know that question was kind of hard to tackle from like a non-scientific sort of view. Because I'm like you guys. Okay. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, I need the proof. What? Because when somebody makes a claim, you have to first question where the claim is coming from, and then you have to have multiple sources to confirm. So I understand how it's kind of hard to tackle that from a non-scientific point of view. However, some people have noticed that the sun does not appear as yellow. Maybe it's more whiter now. So that's where the question comes up. So thank you for answering that.
Well, but I do know enough about science to know that, we're seeing it differently because our equipment is changing dramatically because of technology. There are astronomical changes that have been noted by people who do observation. And like I said, even in the astrology world, there are definitely some things that have been noted. But, it always brings up, has it happened before? Is this a normal phenomenon that occurs over a period of time, or is this exclusive to this time frame now? I don't know that I can answer that, but those are the things that come to mind. And there is a certain amount of evidence that technology is causing us to notice some things that formerly weren't recorded or noticed, in the past. But there are different changes. But I come from the real creative philosophy that says that that's what life is all about, is creativity. I don't know that it's dramatically more than any other time. It feels like more now. There's some evidence to think that there are some real physiological changes going on, but I'm not the person who could give you the definitive answer in that respect.
Definitely. It's worth checking into. I know a lot of people claim that it's a false sun, and there's been other claims too that the sun is 93 million miles away. I really wish that we actually knew the answers to a lot of these questions. Me and Aaron had talked about this one day where, well, I wish we could just climb up on a pole, a really tall pole, and take a selfie and see if the sun is really as high as they say it is, or as far away,
Right.
But I don't think we'll ever really know for sure. 3 miles away, way back when.
Well, I could talk about the sketching rule of thumb on that one, because that's pretty much how it was determined and measured. But a lot of people would not think that's necessarily scientific evidence. So,
As I recall, what was it, Kepler? I think Johannes Kepler, he came up with a formula that the ratios of the radiuses squared is equal to the cube of the ratio of the distances between them, or something
right.
like to that degree. So that may have been where it came from. I'm just really not sure.
Well, and I find it an interesting question because, there are a lot of scientists now trying to reproduce and create fake sunlight. And there's a lot of reason for that. I mean, not only in increasing our ability to grow food sources here on Earth, but, in the long term, I mean, the sun is a star and it's going to burn out eventually. Not in my lifetime, but I know that that's likely where it's going to go unless something occurs that none of us have any idea, that how that would come about. So it's an interesting question. But it's too hot for us to go near enough to really have a one-on-one experience and figure it out.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I'm trying to provide the number again. Sorry, guys. Okay, the number is 334-787-9930. Okay, that is the sideline number. If you guys have any other questions, by all means, you know, we're here. And a couple of recent Mandela effects, just real quick. Okay, I just want to be brief about these. Dr. Lupo, I'm not sure if you've heard, but the CDC has changed their abbreviation and what it actually stands for.
No, we haven't. Center for Disease Control is what it used to be.
Yeah, it's now Centers for Disease Control. It's been like that since 1980.
Really?
It's weird, isn't it?
Because for a while there was only one in Atlanta Center.
Emory Clinic.
Yeah. And I believe there was a whole episode of Walking Dead around it. Oh,
That's what I thought too. So.
Are you getting prank calls? Or are you good?
Hey guys. Hey, this is Teresa's first time actually calling in, and she is a little bit nervous, so scared and nervous. You have nothing to be afraid of, Teresa. We're all here to support you.
You can tell them about all my weird experiences that I've had since December. The little city in the sky, which you've seen.
There was a couple.
About my experience.
Teresa has seen a city in the sky. I know there's that thing on YouTube that's been circulating, and she really did see it.
I have pictures.
There was pictures of a city in the sky.
Yeah.
I myself, maybe the picture was a little bit fuzzy. I could not quite make it all the way out, but I could tell something might have been there. I want to ask you, Teresa, what were some of the other things you wanted to say?
About the Mandela thing, about how things are changing right in front of your eyes. Example, Chick-fil-A yesterday, I was looking at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say Flickr, finding residue of Chick-fil-A, CHICFILA. And I look away for 1 second, I look back, and the picture immediately changed. Like literally that fast. And that's not the first time something like that's happened to me.
Yeah,
it literally changed that fast. Example, the Fruit Loops thing. You know all about that one.
Yeah, it's like the rending is becoming less and less and less as time goes on. And Teresa has noticed, and I noticed that she found residue on Fruit Loops and all these different pictures. It was like pictures within a picture, you know? And these little pictures had changed individually, and now they don't have the Fruit Loops the way she found it or the way we remember it with the U and the I. Now they have 2 O's. Apparently Fruit Loops.
Overnight.
Oh, it literally happened overnight, she said. So I'm wondering if anyone else has had that sort of experience.
Yes, I want to know if anybody's looking at something at residue, all of a sudden it changes. And actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name. You know Tom? I was telling Tom about the Target logo, and you know how the G looks like an arrow now?
Mm-hmm.
While you were doing this talk show, I literally was talking to Tom on the phone, and I was saying, hey, look at the Target logo. And he goes, well, what's wrong with it? And I said, the arrow. Do you know he was looking at the picture and immediately morphed from the regular Target logo into the arrow right in front of him? You can ask him about that later on. It literally changed in front of him, just like the Chick-fil-A did to me. Like literally changed in front of my eyes. And I mean, like what I was seeing. And literally changed the Target logo in front of him, just like my Chick-fil-A. And I want to know why that's happening. We're seeing it immediately changing right in front of our eyes. I want to know how that is possibly, you know.
Yeah, is it? I know. I know, and sometimes sometimes these things are some of them to possibly bad memory, like but it's like you learn and you pick up new things every time, but something just doesn't look right, and then right, and when you see it wrong, like another instance, it just proves that and you're saying these things change overnight.
I watched Chick-fil-A literally change into CHICK. I was going to send you a picture of that. Yeah.
And she's talking about
changed in front of my eyes.
Actual residue. Because she hunts residue a lot, and
residue hunter.
yeah, and some of the residue that she's finding is she's saying has drastically changed to the new reality.
More in front of my eyes. There's more. Really changed.
You guys want to tackle that one, or?
I'll take it.
No, I have no explanation for that.
I'll take this. Okay. You finish? There we go. All right. So I know what you're talking about, because people will send me stuff all the time to put on the show, and one guy had found the old Volkswagen logo without the brake in it, and then as he's emailing it back and forth with me and we're talking about it, it changed, like during emails back and forth. And then and people have had this happen so much that they said you have to take a picture of a picture. So if you have a picture, take another picture of it, and some reason that seems to keep it from changing. Like I don't know, it takes a step back. I don't ask me why it works. I don't know. What I think is that we are in a process where there are multiple realities shifting back and forth. It's kind of like driving with a car, and you know how there's some places you get two radio signals at once and you can hear them both. That's kind of what's going on right now. So as the logos change back and forth, you're seeing both going on at the same time.
Hey, Brian?
Yes, Teresa?
Can I add on to that? Has he noticed, I don't know if I ever told you this, I think you know, does it help the situation that I am also been told I was an empath? Does that have a lot to do with a lot of us who are Mandela infected, that we all have some kind of spiritual gift that we were receiving? I was told I was an empath years ago, and now I'm wondering if that's why all of a sudden I'm noticing, like, look at the Beppo changed today for me, and I'm still freaking out about it. I'm sitting here eating my pasta, and I'm looking at a bag that says BUCA instead of BUCCA. And it's like I'm noticing things right away, and I don't know if that's part of my... But I wanted to ask about that, if that's part of it. If that supposedly a lot of us have.
I'll say this, Teresa, is I have a community that we chat on, like an afterglow chat after the shows. Everybody goes over there and hangs out and chats. And like 90% of them are empaths. So the people that are really connected to this, the most that get affected are the empaths. And we just have an extremely high percentage of them. Like if you ever come over to our chat room, you're welcome to come by, hang out.
Are you referring, Dr. Lupo, are you referring to Discord? Discord? Is that what you're referring to?
We have a Discord chat room, the Afterglow. If you go in there, there's just a huge amount of empaths. It's really funny because we have to keep it very nice and polite over there because empaths get their feelings hurt about everything. So we make sure we pump up the positive energy in there all the time. So because we all feed on each other.
Yeah, I've seen you have like one of the biggest chat rooms I've ever seen. It's not like the old style chat rooms either. This is really fantastic. You have individual rooms set up for everyone.
Discord's really cool. I don't like the name. It's a terrible name, so I keep calling it the Afterglow. But it is a service like Skype or something where you can have a giant voice talk, like an old school party talk, or you can text if you're shy and you don't want to speak. But yeah, we have a real active community. I'll drop a link in the in here, and I imagine when this show is over, a bunch of people will pop up over there. So yeah, come on by.
One I'm sorry.
Okay.
I've never done this before.
It's fine.
Ask him about September 23rd.
I don't know anything about that. Everybody keeps bringing it up, but it's something to do with the Bible, and I don't know what it is. So if someone wants to enlighten me.
What's strange is we've been pressed with this Nibiru subject, and they said the world was going to end in December. Well, guess what? We're still here, and we've been pushed about Y2K. I think they're using it to control people's stocks and bonds and everything. I think a lot of people are going to get scared and sell everything they have, and then sure enough, they're going to, they're going to take advantage of that. So it very well could be PSYOP material that they're trying to convince everyone to control the market. We don't have all the facts. It is pointing towards some kind of alignment, but from what our psychic is telling us, Carol is saying it's a lot of positive energy, and we have to keep focused on that, right, guys? I mean,
well, we do, because otherwise the negative energy will consume it.
I'm getting another phone call, Teresa. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for talking to me, and I definitely need to get into the chat room with Dr.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat, the live chat. Just go back to that, and you'll see it in a minute.
I'll be sure to send her the link. Is there any way we could drop that in the comments, maybe? Could our moderator drop in the comments?
I'll have to give it to you for other people that want. I'll give you a link that doesn't expire. So yeah.
Yes,
usually
and also
they blow up in a half hour.
I seriously do want one of those clocks.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I'll link you to that too. Also, guys, I know there's a lot of Christian viewers. They actually have an area, a whole Christian server too with ME people. When you come over to mine, I can give you the link for it. So I'll drop those links for you before I split and pass out.
Great, because I'm going to pass out unless I get one of those clocks.
You really want the clock? Okay, I'll get you a kick. They come in all different colors. You can get like a white, you can get a pink, a blue. You don't have to just get the old school black, but they've evolved.
Guys, we have another question. Rena, did you have a spiritual question or more of a scientific question? Say hi to them first of all. Guys, say hi to Rena.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm glad you came on tonight. It's kind of related to the Mandela effect, but also spiritual at the same time. I have a personal one that I decided I was going to challenge the Mandela effect, and I did. And I told it to wow me. And it actually did. And I personally, I think it was more of a demonic attack. And I've been experiencing it a lot, so it comes on the spiritual side as well. However, I went grocery shopping, and I think it picked this to mess with me. I bought these ice cream cone cups, and they were cups. That's what my son likes to eat. I use them when he's potty training, and they're the organic kind. And so I'm like, all right, this is what he likes. And it's low on sugar, whatever. It's something crunchy, not like candy. So, he did a good job in the bathroom, so I go to open it up, and it turned into waffle cones. And he can't eat those. I was like, I did not buy these. I know I did not. Then it happened again with a coconut chip, plain flavored, and it turned into chocolate. I bought, and I'm a strict vegan. I bought plain, like a soy chip kind of thing, and no flavors. It's just sea salt. That changed to ranch, and I'm like, I know I did not buy that. And so I've been experiencing these little minute things change personally to me, and I'm like, I really regret saying, okay, do your worst. So I don't know if you guys believe that this Mandela effect or have any experience with that kind of stuff. If you think it has an awareness for it, or it knows that we're talking about it, or along that sort of line, do you think it's a living thing that understands what we're saying to it, or that we're looking for it? And do you think it wants to be exposed by any Christian believers?
Yeah, and I think that's more of a. I actually think that's more. I'm leaning toward a universal consciousness, kind of like the. I guess if you explain that in scientific terms, it could be the superconscious, maybe. Or am I right, Dr. Lupo? And the universal conscious.
Universal, yeah. Perhaps
you would view that as like maybe the Holy Spirit or something. Can you guys elaborate? You know, one of you
Well,
at a time.
Let me ask you, are you familiar with the author Ken Keyes? Have you heard of
You
it?
asking me? Is that
Yeah.
Tarina?
Whoever wants to. Ken Keyes, Keyes.
No.
He wrote a
No,
book.
but
Okay. Well, he wrote a book called The 100th Monkey Principle. It's one of a number of books that he had. And he wrote it based on some scientific evidence. And the evidence was this. There was a group of scientists that were doing some observation of monkeys on a small island off the coast of Japan. And in the process, they began to notice that one monkey went down to the water and washed off its food before it ate. And then it wasn't very long that two were doing it. And at the point that 100 went down and washed their food, there were 2 or 3 other scientific groups in other parts of the world that were doing observation of monkeys in their areas. And when it hit the 100, then all of a sudden these other scientists were reporting the same phenomenon was occurring where they were studying. So and that's an example of universal consciousness. And so you can, you know, I think it would be very reasonable to assume or draw the conclusion that, you know, the Mandela effect may very well be serving that kind of purpose. And so when we talk about it, or when you talk about it, I was sitting here thinking, I wonder what that means to her. If she is had this experience and these observations, what does that mean to her?
I personally, it really upset my son, so that made me angry a little bit because I was like, I know I did not pick these ones out because they're too hard. He can't eat those because he's almost 3, 2.5, so it's too sharp. So I know I would never pick those out. So when I have these things happen, I feel like it's a direct attack upon me. I guess that's what I was asking for. What do I expect anything good to happen out of this? A lot of it scared me, so I don't know how to look at it more positively. I don't know.
Well, it would be a positive. I mean, and I'm just talking from my point of view. To me, it would be positive from the standpoint that anybody who gets into metaphysics at some point or other, they will talk about manifesting, what you can manifest. And so, you know, you're having something manifest that you hadn't planned on. And maybe that's a sign that there is a miracle, or there is something different that you don't quite know what it's about. But what it's saying to you is that there are ways to manifest. And I keep wondering what it is that you want to manifest in your life, because you're having these manifestation experiences. If something in your grocery bag is changing that you did not pick up, then what is it that you have been seeking inside you that is wanting to manifest something in your life? What is that? Is it something you can talk about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess personally, with the whole phenomenon, I had tons of paranormal activity in my house, just left and right. A lot of repeating things, so I kind of wrote it off as like the retrocognitive energy that just kind of replays over and over and over at certain times. But all that was gone once this effect actually started messing with me. It was just all gone, and I didn't understand that. So I'm kind of wondering. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's all one giant thing, and then it just else that takes over. I'm not sure what I'm looking for to manifest in my life. I guess it's more of a, I just want to see a flip-flop of things just go back to the way they are, I guess. Because I've seen, like Teresa has, she's seen logos and things and text change right before your eyes when you're searching for residue. And that's like proof in the pudding for me that, okay, this is a Mandela effect. If I'm seeing it change right after I screen cap something, or I'm writing it down and I'm looking at it and it's gone, it's definitely changed. Either that or maybe Google's doing it. I don't know. But I'm hoping that one of these days everything manifests and goes back to the way it was and people can actually see that there is something going on. Because a lot of us get called crazy and it's pretty...
I would say to you again that the nature of the universe is this creative energy, and the nature of the universe is about change. And so I hear you saying you don't want these changes, but the universe is clearly coming back to you and saying you've got to change. You've got to make changes. You need to be prepared for changes. And I'm also hearing you say that you don't want to manifest anything, except that, you know, in the course of this conversation, I'll point out to you, you're wanting to manifest things to go back to where they were. And, and those experiences that you're having are showing you that no matter how concrete you think your purchases are, there is some other element in the universe that has some input into that. And that may be the issue that you're forgetting or you're ignoring or you're not quite in tune with. I mean, you've got to decide how you want to explain that. But it's drawing your attention, and it's about manifesting.
Are you still there? I think we lost her. Let me try to get her back, okay?
Okay.
You guys usually end the
Sorry about
show.
that, you guys. While I'm doing this, if you guys want to, you know, answer any more questions, that's fine. I mean, we're here for everyone. That's the thing. I think, like, I follow Romans 8:28, and we are all called according to His purpose. Right. So I'm doing I'm trying to be the good person I am, and I'm trying to document everything. It seems like it's a daunting task these days because stuff is changing so fast. Okay, I think we got her back. Hold on. Yeah, Rini, there?
There's a dead zone out here.
Oh goodness!
So I apologize.
It's okay. What were we talking about before the call, or how far did you get in the conversation before it died? I'm not sure.
About it manifesting, and basically I have to change. It's hard for me to change in a lot of ways because I'm like, I guess I want more proof, but there's tons of residue. I guess that's good enough for me for now, but I'd like to see it maybe one more time. You know, it's kind of one of those things you just gotta have a good goodbye to. You know, didn't really get a good chance to let go. Closure, I guess. If that sounds stupid, I'm sorry.
Not at all. I mean, it's kind of what I was feeling around you without trying to be invasive and tell you that. So I always find it better to kind of lead people to bring those things up. But I also will point out to you, especially since we are going back and putting that Christian conversation into it, that, you know, Jesus told us that we could do the same thing He did. And if there are, you know, from a very early point in time, Jesus was known to manifest things that nobody expected and thought it was downright impossible. I mean, when you're trying to feed a multitude and you can take a simple loaf and a simple fish and multiply it and fill everybody's, hunger up. I mean, that's pretty big manifestation, and that's what I kept thinking about when you were talking.
So I guess my question is, now that you bring that up, do you think this is a manifestation from God? Or do you think it is, like a lot of people think it's CERN that's doing this, and some people theorize that they've drawn out some sort of negative energy that's trying to take the place of God to create signs and wonders. Do you think the Mandela effect is positive just overall?
Yes,
I guess I just want
I think
opinions on it.
I think any time that your attention is drawn and you are challenged a little bit, it is positive. But we have a world that functions on the, gee, is my cup half full or half empty? And they put it in that context, and they're still sitting back. I can remember one time when I was working one of the 900 numbers for psychics, that this man called in, and I could tell he was in such turmoil, but my way of tuning in was always to pray with the person and then get them to think about what it is that they wanted to ask. And that's just because, well, I read under my middle name, Amelia, and because I didn't think Carol could really know anything. And it was kind of my way of saying that there's something outside myself that allows me to know this. And he just kept pushing, like, well, hurry up. This is, costing me blah, blah, blah. Well, that's okay. But in the process, he was cutting down the energy that I was trying to tune into, to give him the answers that he, or at least the guidance that he was seeking. So he was kind of cutting off the nose to spite himself, and verbalized, well, I knew this couldn't be true, kind of stuff. And no, it can be true, but you have to allow it. Kind of reminds me of when I got into automatic writing, and I had a friend who was doing it also, and her automatic writing was always huge, and mine was more or less in my normal size handwriting. And one day she got really frustrated because it just wore her out to write gigantic and then to try to piece together what it is that had come through. And so she asked the question, why is it that I'm getting this information in such gigantic handwriting compared to Carol, And the answer was that Carol trusted. It was okay to have the experience and allow to come through without any judgment whatsoever. And I could decide whether it was okay or not okay. I mean, I didn't have to do anything if I didn't want to. But with her, she wanted still to control how this was coming. So it was kind of interesting because she evolved into sitting in front of a word processor, and now she can very quickly bring information from the other side through. But that whole issue of trust is there. And, if you get into any faith, Christianity included, we're asked to trust that there is something out there greater than us. It does not matter what the religion is. We are asked to do that. We're asked to balance ourselves and what we have control over with something, a very abstract concept. And that's part of our balance.
As a believer in Christ, do you find it hard to discern between demons and the Holy Spirit?
Because no, it's not at all hard. It is not at all hard. But you have to be confident that you have surrounded yourself with the Christ light. And if you're not invoking that in everything that you do, knowing that you are fully protected by that Christ light, then you're going to have a difficult time with that. I'm confident at this point. I don't draw in negative entities. If any of them come anywhere near me, they're repelled by the brightness of my personal energy field or my personal light, however you want to describe that. I'm confident of that. I know it's true. I could sit here and give you example after example of how I know that's true. But you have to get to that point of confidence. You have to claim your right as a Christian to that you're entitled to that energy, entitled to that protection. But if you're sitting down here struggling, oh, is it true or is it not? Well, hey, just invite all the negative entities and energies to you. Just roll out the red carpet, because that's pretty much what your energy field is doing.
Well, and here's another thing too. I will say something, because I know Rena personally, and she's dealing with a lot right now with her current loved one who doesn't like hearing about the Mandela effect, let alone her talking about it. So I think a lot of us are sort of dealing with, sort of a negative energy.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
Okay.
It's hard because there's always something right at your door. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're retarded. You're like, wait, what? Why does it matter? It's just
Yeah,
like,
there you go. There you go. Why does it matter? What difference does it make?
That's right. That's right. You got to hold on to what is holy and righteous and goodness, right?
Yep, always.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it, you guys. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you, Rena, and hope you get to work safely. Okay. All right. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
In that light, I will share with you an experience I had meeting somebody recently through the newspaper, as a matter of fact. And this is somebody who had almost a near-death experience because of cancer. And after she was healed, she felt led to have like a camera on her or a phone that would take photos, and she has taken some really interesting photos, and she just kind of gets this message that she needs to take a photo a certain direction. And the photos prove that they are a visual that indicate that there is something beyond what it is obvious to most people walking into a room. For instance, one of the most dramatic photos that I've seen of hers is it looks like a window with a major beam of light coming through it, okay, where there is no window. Where there is no window. So in other words, she is capturing the energy that only could come from the other side or from God or from heaven, however you want to describe and explain that. So it's not just the Mandela effect that proves to many people there is something greater than the reality that we think of here on Earth. It comes in many forms. The hard part, I think, for folks, as she was describing, when you are trying to relate to someone who doesn't believe, is pretty much screaming and kicking and yelling over, I don't want to believe this. It gets pretty darn hard to stay in that relationship. And that's the tough part.
Sorry, guys. I just called VNOR, and I'm trying to figure out how to work this. You go ahead just for a second. Let me figure out this phone call real quick.
Okay.
Sorry.
There is a question from Tyler asking me and Carol if we believe in multiple universe theory. Yeah, I do. I feel like there's lots of universes, lots and lots.
Yeah,
we're sliding
I
in and
agree.
out.
I believe there might be a multiple
Oh,
universe theory.
who's that?
The guys, I'm sorry. This is Tori. She asked me to call, so here she is, guys. You want to say hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I saw Brian's video with the attack by the, not alien, but demonic thing, which people are also mistaken for aliens, and some people will argue with me about that. But from a Christian perspective, I think they've done a really good job of making us think they're aliens when they're not. They've been here since before we ever were put on this planet. So I think there's a combination of confusion, delusion, and as well as, I can't say there's no life on any other planet. I just don't think from our biblical knowledge that we're supposed to have ever met them.
How can you say you're not supposed to have met something that exists around you?
Uh-oh. I think we lost her.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was a bad signal. I'm going to try calling her back.
Well, let me just say while you're doing that is that and I think I said this to the other evening, the British have done some really interesting research, and I was sitting here in my memory bank not quite remembering the title of a book, but it was written in the 20s, and a doctor was married to a clairvoyant, and the two of them decided that she would open herself up to entities, or however you want to talk about energy form, that have formerly been people who have passed. Okay. And so they wrote a really interesting book, and he transcribed and wrote down and asked questions while she was in this state. And I found it particularly interesting because they wanted to know what happened to people who were addicted, for instance, or had murdered, or things that we would consider being very negative in life. Over what happened to these people when they passed. And the answer that they came up with over and over again is that people who make those choices in life are still clinging to the earth, saying, I don't want things to change. They're still struggling as they did in life. And so if we as Christians believe in the life after death stuff, these people have life after death, whether they believe in Christianity or any other religious group or not. They still get that life after death. And as a part of that, then if they know they passed on, they're not really wanting to admit it, but it doesn't matter what form they're in, they still have the consciousness that they left life with. And so these beings, these former people who had a physical body, are still walking around tied to an earth plane, struggling as they have continued to struggle, in a large part because they haven't decided that it's okay to do it different. And most experiences that you get into, my experience is that this is what you're in contact with. These people who are still very tied to earth, they don't see a way out of the hole they put themselves in with whatever their issues are. And I would just challenge anybody listening to the broadcast to do some reading of some of the British authors. I don't know how many people don't realize that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was, well, the whole British Psychic Society is, I mean, that was really huge, and a lot of really well-known people were involved in that, and a lot of them were writers, and a lot of that information is contained within their writing. And I think that if you're going to say what's up or which end is up, it's good to read these other points of view and consider them. A lot of people who get into a medium like tarot, for instance, you find out there are a whole lot of different tarot cards. But way back when, you have one person who said, oh, the symbols can't be the way we've been doing it. It has to do this twist. You know, it kind of reminds me of when I was around somebody who was channeling a deceased person, and the person could bring forth some pretty good information, but then the ego would take over, and that's where the good information sort of stopped, because then that person did what human beings often do, jump to conclusions without verifying, and you know, again, there's that human element. So if you need to be wary, you need to just figure out where the consciousness of the physical person or the ethereal person is, and figure it out. And you know, I have just for myself anyway surrounded myself with the white Christ light. I work on my vibrational pattern. A lot of people do that through yoga and other types of meditative things, but you affirm to that, and you and that in itself keeps you free of getting hung up. And if you choose to open your consciousness to whoever or whatever, I think it gets a little easier to recognize what you're dealing with, whether it's positive, more positive, or more negative. Sounds like he's still working on that connection.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I assume he's still there.
I'm sorry, you guys. I've been having some trouble getting back into contact with Tori. She seemed to have dropped the call a couple times, and she said she's sorry for that. I'm just trying to get her back on so she can finish her questions. I'm sorry about that. Give me 1 sec, okay?
All right, but midnight I turn into a pumpkin. Disappear. So you only got a few minutes if you want to ask me a question.
Tori, is there still?
So.
Hello, Tori. All right. Well, if you can hear me, if you can, just post your question in the chat, and we'll follow from there. Thank you. Yeah, it's just some bad reception, which I understand it because I have AT&T. There are some dead spots, and you know, T-Mobile's the same way, I'm sure. Sprint. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of why, you know, what is, I mean, the one thing that seems to link everyone is spirituality. Am I right?
Yeah.
About the Mandela effect. So, I mean, I know you mentioned some things about your encounter with spirituality, and how you're fasting right now. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. You know, I had a grace fall upon me, and it changed my life, and it was a big deal. And I think most people in this movement, the ME community, are in some way spiritual. Very few have I met that are full-blown atheists. I mean, I can maybe count like 2 or 3. So I think it is affecting people that are more open to receive the message.
Right.
Yes, I think that's one thing we can all agree on, whether you're a spiritualist or a naturalist. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, but anyway, Dr. Lupo, I was really honored to have you on our show tonight. Thank you for joining us. Did you have anything else you wanted to say to our audience?
I keep getting questions about the Afterglow chat, the Discord chat. So I'm going to post the link one more time now the show's ending. When the show ends, feel free to drop by. I'll be there for a few minutes to help you get situated, and then you can stay up with all the night owls in chat. So there's pretty deep conversations. You can carry this stuff over there, and sometimes they're just having fun and goofing off, and it's just nice to have like-minded friends. So come on over and say hi, and Brian, definitely let me know when you air, and we'll drop the link so those folks over there know you're on.
Yeah, I try to come on every Friday night.
I brought a little crowd with me tonight, so hopefully.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I'll be sure to, depending on the subject, if it's okay, I'll ask you if I could join, or if you let me know.
Yeah, man, of course. Yeah, you should join. Come on over. Everybody's welcome to come. I'm going to drop the link. It doesn't last forever, so hit this link.
I actually copied both links, which I can't post them in the comments. There's no comments section right now, but I will post both in the comments.
Just drop it in the description or in comments or whatever.
Okay, and also, Dr. Lupo, because a lot of us who are Mandela affected, we feel disconnected somewhat. Do you plan on, do you have like maybe where people can meet, like possibly for dating reasons or anything like that? Do you do any of that?
It's funny you say that. There is a couple people that have found each other, because imagine how hard it is to date. Say Mandela effects or this shifting realities is kind of taking over your life, and then you're trying to date someone that doesn't get it at all.
Yes,
that's not a good place to be. So there has been a few. Now it is not a pickup. This is not like a pickup chat room. If you go there and act like a jerk, you'll get thrown out. But if you if you meet someone you really like and it's natural and good, great, man. Let's spread the love around. That'd be great. So yeah. Also, there is a Christian chat room as well. If you come over, I can post that link, and they've got a lot going on in there, even though there is an area to discuss religion and Christianity in my chat too, so you don't have to leave.
I was going to ask you.
I will post it.
Okay. I was going to say, with that one link, can they get to the other chat rooms?
No. Yeah, I'd have to give you the other link once you're in. So come to mine first, and then I'll post it in there. Yeah. The Christian one.
Okay.
It's a different Discord that that is not mine. I just like the people over there, so I recommend it.
Did you have any before Dr. Tarrin Lupo leaves, Carol?
Yeah. Last questions, because I'm turning into a pumpkin.
Well,
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I appreciated the opportunity of being on with both of you, and look forward to further discussion.
You bet. Nice meeting you, Carol.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. She said I subbed you. I appreciate that. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for all who are moderators tonight, and for helping our discussion move along. Because you never know where the Spirit may lead you, right, guys?
That's right.
Amen. And I hope you all have a good night. I know we're kind of ending slightly short of schedule, but that's fine.
Oh, you can stay on. I'm just going to bed. So don't let me run your show if you want to keep taking questions.
Okay. Carol, you want to hang out with me till, a little bit longer, like till 12:30?
Well, I'd really enjoy doing that, but I've got 3 kids I need to get down.
Yeah. Well,
and
thank
I'm
you
hanging
for
out at my friend's house, so yeah.
Thanks to both of you for sacrificing your time to be on here tonight. I really appreciate it, and so does the audience. God bless you both.
All right. You too.
All right, guys.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for the invite.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.